Well, I got far enough with this shovel in cleaning it up to, well, first of all, it's odd because this is like forged. This is not stamped. It's not stamped out of a piece of thin metal. I mean, it's solid metal all through the center here. And I ended up on the front of it figuring out, you know, it's got a shield and a crescent, which is like an X, and it says black DIMUN or DIMO, and it looks like maybe a part of an N. And I searched that online, and it says this is a Wyoming red made shovel, which is an antique shovel that could be worth some money because it's so old. And I said, well, and it's a black diamond, and I said, well, unless they didn't know how to spell diamond, there's no A in there, it's DIM. And they said that back in around the 1800s, that was real common for them to shorten words and actually drop a letter out to where, you know, DIMOND is like a fancy short for diamond, which would be a DIAMOND. And it's like, okay, I am going to have to take their word on that, you know, because I don't know nothing about back in the 1800s. Now, this one, I actually cleaned up some, and I'm not totally done with it, but I got it far enough to tell this is a nice, you know, cutting blade and so forth, but I'm not actually seeing any name brand on it so far. You know, this may be something that was made, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if this could be made by a blacksmith or exactly what, but I know that that I don't see any name brands. But it does look to me like it is a good possibility that it's antique. But either way, it is very cool. I don't think I'd want to shave with it though. But this is a couple things that I got in Lafayette, Tennessee at the, what do they call it? State Route 52 yard sale. So an old shovel and an old antique cutting implement here. That's about as far as I'm going to go with these for now, because if this one ends up being, you know, worth good money as an antique or something, I don't want to take a chance of going too far with it and stripping it down any further that may be a negative. But I like it anyways. If nothing else, I may end up just cutting her off to about there and making one of them sharp-edged shovels out of it. I did start to sharpen the edges a little. I got the end pretty sharp. You could shave with the end, but the sides aren't that sharp yet. There's a little bit of sharpness to it, but they're not super sharp. But that's basically me working, cleaning up a couple old things that I picked up at the Highway 52 yard sale, just for a couple cool little things to work with. You know, this one here, I guarantee you this is late 1800s, because you just don't find shovels that are forged out of solid pieces of steel and that aren't stamped. I mean, you can look at that and look at the end of that, and you see there is no, I mean, it is no, you know, little bit of steel that's pressed into the shape of a shovel. I mean, it's through this end and through this part here, it's all solid steel, one piece. And it's not flipped over or anything like that. That's you know, top quality blacksmith workmanship there. And then this one here is also this one I'd still say is at least, you know, probably 1940s, 1950s, if not older too. Hard to say, hard to put an actual date on it. But basically, the things you can find, this shovel here, that could be worth hundreds. What did I pay? I think I paid $7 for it. I think he wanted a little bit more, but I bought a couple things. I think I bought both of these, and got both of them for 11 or 12 or something like that. And you can't beat that, because I mean this turns out to be an antique, but you never know what you're going to find when you go to some of the yard sales and estate sales like that. You can find people that are buying things in bulk and closing them out for pretty cheap, and there can actually be hidden gems in them, that if nothing else can be something real cool for putting up on the wall in an old cabin, that's a tool from the 1800s or something. I also just bought a vintage, what is it, Negretti and Zamba pedometer that I think they said is made in London or somewhere, Britain, Germany, I don't know, but it's from the 1800s, and I just bought that and got it from eBay here not too long ago, and it's built it's built like a pocket watch. Actually, it's built kind of like some of the newer ones where they use the mechanical gearing and everything, and the back of them is glass where you can actually see the gears working and stuff like this. This pedometer that I bought, which I've actually been getting into the pedometers lately. One's from back in probably the 60s and 70s and older. They're real similar to the ones that were built in the 80s, but the ones that are back a little bit further have a little bit more, they're mainly metal. They're not, the newest ones of the mechanical ones usually are from the 80s, and they're mostly plastic and aren't quite as tough. They're good for use, but I mean, as far as actual, collector's thing, they're not quite as big in demand or anything. But the one that I got, that's the Negretti and Zambia or something like that, is from the late 1800s, and it is really quality made. The front and the back are crystal glass, not plastic, and you can see in and see the workings in the back, and so forth, and it works. I've got to figure out how to adjust it, but that's the thing with the old mechanical stuff back then. I mean, it was made by watchmakers and stuff like that, but they did not screw around. I mean, they made stuff to last a lifetime, which that, if it's from the 1800s to 1900 to I mean, it's over 200 years old, and it's still working like a charm. Ain't much made like that no more, and I mean, it may have Roman numerals for the numbers on it and go from 1 to 12, but I could put it on right now, and if I adjust it to my stride, I figured out that at a 26-inch stride, that's 2,112 steps. So I started off doing exactly half that many from it on the very start position, and it should have showed at a 26-inch stride, it should have showed half a mile, and it was showing about 3/4 of a mile. So I'm guessing that the stride on it is set for more like around 30 to 34-inch stride, where I'm a 26-inch stride. But I'm also, it could be set for jogging, and I'm older with back problems and quite a few other kind of problems and stuff. So I can't jog. I can walk, but I can't jog. My back won't take it, so I've got to set it to a walking pace. and I try to walk for exercise, because I can't jog or run, uh, at least not at this point. Uh, that don't mean that I couldn't hit a point where I could someday if I get in good enough shape and lose enough weight and stuff. But I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it. But you never know. Anything's possible, I guess. With God, anything's possible. But I wanted to come on here and show you these. Next time I pop on, I may even bring a couple of my pedometers that I like to pick up and mess with, and most of them actually work. You can get them from eBay, vintage pedometers, and usually they'll work. Especially if they say they do. But I've had a couple of them that didn't. I've had one in particular that I bought that was probably from the 70s. And I think it was K&R is the name brand of it or something like that, which is one of the better ones. But it didn't work. And I ended up pulling it out and looking at it inside and everything, and the gears were all funky sideways and out of place. And, I had to take the whole thing apart and rebuild it and put all the gears back in and everything, which when you're working with the small stuff like that ain't easy to do. I still can't believe that I got the thing working again. It was a whole bunch of stomping and swearing and working my way through the ones that I knew, and maybe making a few new ones along the way before I finally got the stupid thing back together. And much to my surprise, it actually worked. And I'm not gonna make any bets on it or anything, how long it's gonna work or hold up or whatever, because that's not my specialty, and I think I just kind of lucked into getting it working, and so forth. But I usually go for ones that are already working. But the one that I got, that's the Negretti and Zambia or whatever one, that's from overseas, from the 1800s and stuff. I mean, it is over. It's probably, oh my gosh, it's probably somewhere around, nominally 200 years old. I don't know, maybe it's not that much. Maybe it's more like 130, 140, 150. I don't know. But anyways, it's old. And I mean, it still works like a charm. I mean, it's such quality. You would never think, looking at today's stuff, that people could make anything of that quality. But again, they're not trying to. They're trying not to these days because they want to sell you a new one once a week. So everything's plastic nowadays and so forth. But, I mean, some of the stuff have came a lot further in technology, and there are, real good stuff out there. But for some of us older fellas like myself, we see quality in some of these things like this, and in some of these old pedometers and mechanical things and stuff. And I was a heating and air conditioning licensed air conditioning contractor for I had my own company in Melbourne, Florida for about 35 years. And I was probably in the trade probably about 45 years or something like that. So, I mean, I'd done a lot of mechanical work. And, I understand mechanics, I understand electrical, and stuff more than your average person. But us older guys, when we get older and get up to the retirement age and stuff like that, our minds still need to be doing something. So to get into playing around with some of this stuff, and if you look at some of my older videos, I make some of my own grills. I'm also fascinated with and love messing with wood grilling stuff, where I actually seek out. I don't go buy the wood. Unfortunately, I ain't got the money to be buying fancy wood to cook on and stuff. I'll end up grabbing a couple hardwood branches here or there, and making up my own little pieces of wood and splitting them up, just small stuff. But I make my own little pieces of wood to cook with and stuff, and then I'll cook burgers and steaks and anything pork, usually pork. Not much of us can afford steak anymore. They've got the prices of everything so high. When you got to mortgage your house to buy a hot dog, to buy a pack of hot dogs, ain't many people buying steaks, unless it's like, I did one video not that long ago where I cooked a steak on the grill, and it was good. But it was like a $3 or $4 steak from Piggly Wiggly up the street. I don't know what, God knows what cut it was. I mean, it's not like I'm buying ribeyes or anything. It's probably like a groin steak or some, whatever the bottom of the line, round steak or whatever the hell they call it. Just the, lower end. But if you cook it over wood and you do it right, it still has a pretty good flavor to it. It beats the heck out of pork. I mean, pork's the only thing we can really afford these days. A lot of us, and even the pork, you got to look around. I mean, Piggly Wiggly, back home in North Florida, I would go to the Save-A-Lot, and for usually around, I don't know, 180 to $2 a pound, right in that zone somewhere. You can get like pork chops or whatever if you get a family pack or whatever. Piggly Wiggly up here recently had pork chops for, it's like $1.47 a pound. That's pretty dang good, $1.47 a pound, and I mean it wasn't old stuff. I mean it was nice and fresh. But you got to look. Hell, a lot of the times you go into Walmart nowadays and you think, oh, Walmart's cheap. Well, they're charging $4.99 and $5 or more a pound for pork, and you can go to Save-A-Lot or Piggly Wiggly or somewhere and get it for $1.50 to $2 a pound. If you're buying the right stuff, and the right cuts, but they're just as good and everything. But you got to watch nowadays. When you're going and buying meat and stuff, you always have a good idea of what meat you're buying and what you can get it for if you're getting a good price. That's why I know the price of pork real good, because that's usually what I buy, because that's what I can afford these days. Hopefully, if I get enough like and subscribe, maybe one of these days for long, if I get monetized, I'll be able to afford a steak again once in a while that, that's the better stuff, ribeyes and stuff, and, but pork is a real good one. And I tell you what, heck, man, some of that pork, the pork chops and stuff like that, if you cook them right over fire and stuff like that, they're good. The ones that I done up there, that was $1.49, $1.47 a pound or whatever. Man, you want to talk about some juicy, delicious pork chops. I mean, they were great. And then you take those and put some A1 on them. You don't know it ain't steak. I mean, it tastes, with some A1 on it, it tastes just like steak, or close enough. I mean, that you don't even really know the difference. But anyways, my name's Brian Crosby. So, from Brian's Life or Life with Brian, 2 different channels that I have that are quite similar, if not almost identical. But I'm a retired heating and air conditioning licensed contractor from the state of Florida. That started out up in Toledo, Ohio area, and went to school at Penna County Vocational High School in Perrysburg. And with 2 years of training in heating and air conditioning school and a year and a half or so up there in the Toledo, Ohio area working in heating and air conditioning, I went down to Florida, and within a few years down there working, I had filled in what I didn't know in the air conditioning end of the trade. I'd done more heating and plumbing up in Toledo, uh, and went right after. I went and took my heating and air conditioning contractor's license and passed it, and got a Class C license, which is a service license, and started my own little company. And within a few months later after that, I ended up going back again and stepping up to the Class B license, which is uh, residential, light commercial, contracting, change out, service, everything. And with probably about $700 in an old beat up van, Chevy van with an inline six, I started Airflow Mechanical Inc., or Airflow Mechanical, which I owned and ran in Melbourne, Florida for 35 years. And never got rich, but we were always honest with people. And I mean, being in business probably 35 years, I think it was between 88 and 90 I started it. I actually ended up hiring my wife to work there because she came in to put an application in, and she was so beautiful. My mom worked there at the time. My mom and my brother worked with me, and I said, hire her, so they hired her, and it was probably about 3 weeks after I hired her, I called her up into the front office one day and said, hey, you want to go out to dinner this Friday? And it scared her a little bit. She thought she was going to get fired or something. And she said, yeah, I'll go out to dinner with you. And it's all she wrote from there. I was too busy and too stupid to get out and actually meet anybody, So God thought, I'm gonna have to send a girl right to this idiot. He does nothing but work all the time. So the only way he's gonna meet anybody is if I send one right to him. So he did, and it kind of went from there. I mean, of course, we had our couple little times where we hit spats and split up for short times and stuff, but overall, we've been together since then, and she became one of the most vital parts of the company, and helped turn it around and get it out of the red and get it running better than it ever had before, because she took over running the office once my mom passed away. And here we are all these years later, still married, still happy. She is my life. I love her more than anything. Very good woman. You guys out there that have good women, you need to treat them right, or somebody else will. But as long as you treat them right and you show them attention, they've got no reason to be looking for attention anywhere else. I tell mine how beautiful she is every single day, and how much I love her and appreciate her. You need to be doing the same, because if you're not, and you end up with problems, it's on you, Also, any of you out there that are in relationships, and you want those relationships to go good, get you and your spouse in church, in a good, maybe non-denominational church or something, where you go by the Bible, and you are the church helps teach you what you should and shouldn't do in life, and what is right and what ain't right to do out there and stuff like that, because if you end up having problems, or you end up split up or whatever, divorced, whatever the case may be, it's partially your fault, because you didn't get your spouse or your loved one into church and help them get solidified strong with God, where they're standing on something firm. If they, everybody that's standing on sand can have that sand washed right out from underneath their feet the first time a good wave comes along. But if you get them standing on a rock, and you're standing on a rock, you're a lot less likely to have what you think you have get washed right out from under your feet. I talked a little bit about advice in a couple of my first channel names that I did, and then I ended up taking it off because I do such a wide array of stuff. It's not all advice, But as far as advice, couple little pieces of advice. That's one of them. Get yourself into church, and get your loved ones into church. because it ain't going to be very much longer, and the rapture is going to be happening, and you don't want you to miss it. You don't want your wife to miss it. You don't want your husband to miss it. You don't want your kids to miss it. You don't want your friends to miss it, because it's going to be a heck of a lot worse than what people are thinking. Being separated from the love of God, us ones that go to heaven, all of the evil will be taken out of us, and we'll be pure, and what excites us and makes us happy then will be so much different than now, because there'll be no evil in us. So good things will make us happy and excited. But the ones that are stuck here, all the evil will be left there, and all the good will be taken out of them. So that what excites them will be the most demonic, evil, murderous, terrible stuff, that they won't even be able to enjoy being around each other, because they'll all be so demonically possessed and so evil. They'll be like a bunch of rabid animals all trying to attack and bite and kill each other. There will and then they'll know what missing God is. Right now there's a little bit of good out here to where you can enjoy stuff, so they don't think they need God. But when all good is taken away and there is no good, there is no enjoyment, there is none of the good, pure things that God left here for us, good, pure, natural stuff, when everything's corrupt like spoiled garbage, life in general is like spoiled garbage and decay, there'll be no fun. And then they'll wish they had God. Then they'll know that even the good things they have in their lives, even though they may be living evil and they may be atheist or something and not believe in God, they don't realize they're going to lose all good things, because all good things are part of God. And if they're separated from God, they're going to lose all them good things, and everything that they have in their life and everything that they have to come in contact with will be like decaying, spoiled garbage, reeking of death and decay. Very bad. But anyways, off that subject, another good subject. Here's one for you. If you live, especially in the southeast, all of you folks down there in Florida that own houses down there in Florida, you got any indoor air quality problems? Mold? You get mold smell? You afraid you got mold in your ductwork and everything like that? And you can spend thousands and thousands and try to to do things and stuff like that. In all of the time that I've been in things and stuff like that, one of the smartest things that you can do is buy a standalone dehumidifier that's got a built-in condensate pump that pumps the water out through a small little, quarter to half inch tube. And you put that somewhere in the central part of your house. Maybe somewhere not too far from your return air grill. And where it can be all the time, and it can plug into the 110 volt wall outlet and everything, and you can pipe it out so that water gets piped right outside. You don't want it draining anywhere in the house. But you set that to somewhere in the 40 to 50% relative humidity zone and let it run. And it will keep your house dehumidified more than your air conditioner will all the time, which will make it much more comfortable. And your air conditioner, when it's running and it's having to do a lot of dehumidification because there's high humidity in the air, it slows it way down in cooling. You don't get a 21 degree temperature drop across the coil when the humidity's high. It may be way down, 16, 17 degrees across the coil, 18, whatever. But when it dries out, then that stretches all the way up to, 21 degrees across the coil or better. So the little tiny couple dollars that it costs to run that standalone dehumidifier, and I always get one that's way bigger than what the house needs, to make sure that it's not a heavy load on it and that it's running all the time to try to keep up. But you can get them on Amazon for probably around nominally $300-400, and put it in your house, depending on the size of your house. You know, if your house is 2,000 square foot or less, you could probably get one, and get one of them that says that they'll do up to 4,000 square feet or something, you know, so you know you're not even sizing it close to the size of your house. And if you've got 4,000 square foot, or if you've got 2,000 square foot or more, you could even put a couple of them in, you know, spaced, you know, towards different ends of the house, but in the central part of the house, not in a room or something where they're going to get closed off from the house. And set them to, you know, depending. I mean, you can even, if you've got mold problems or something, you could start them out lower. I mean, set it down to, 40% relative humidity or something, and let it run a little bit more to begin with, for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, until it's been dehumidifying it and keeping the humidity low enough that any mold that could be trying to grow anywhere starts dying, because they don't have enough humidity to live, because mold needs humidity. You know, so that's one of the things that I have learned, you know, in my latter years in the trade. Starting, I ran into a few situations where we started using standalone dehumidifiers besides the air conditioning system. And man, you want to talk about making a difference. You know, it really cleans your air quality up. Another thing too is super high resistance filters that you hold up to the light and you can barely see light through them. I mean, they can tell you what they want about them, about those really high, you know, it's MERV rated to, to these real high amounts. Yeah, it's choking the damn airflow off. Hold your mouth and your nose shut and breathe for a couple minutes and see how that works for you. That's what you're doing to your air conditioner. If your air conditioner can't breathe, it can't suck the warm air in, cool it, and blow out cold air, you know, if you slow that airflow down by 50%, you make the air in your ductwork so much colder, because it can't get that cooling out into the air. That what it does is it causes your ducts to condensate inside and create a bunch of moisture. The inside of your ducts become sopping wet. And sopping wet ducts on the inside become moldy sopping wet ducts. You know, I mean, I don't care, you know, I was a licensed contractor for 35 years, and I've done a lot of, and an indoor air quality certified master tech. And everybody's got their own opinion. We all know what they stand for, and, you know, everybody's got one. Opinions are like, you know, but if you must know my opinion, your air conditioner's like an old Chevy. Some old Chevy small block motor. The better it can breathe, the better it can work. Just like you. If you can't breathe, think about when you get a real bad cold and you can't breathe. Do you think real clearly? Do you function real clearly? No. The better you can breathe, the better you think. The better your body functions, because it needs that air flow and circulation to your lungs to give you the oxygen you need to think. Well, the air conditioner needs good airflow through it to be able to put the cooling it's generating out into the air. If you slow the airflow down too much, you freeze your evaporator coil, your unit starts freezing up, you condensate the heck out of your ducts and make your ducts real wet inside, so the inside of your unit and the inside of your unit grow mold. You are a mold gardener at that point. You're creating your own mold growth. But if you keep it to where your unit breathes good, I go to Ace and use the white fiberglass spun filters. You can hold them up, you can see through them, but they're not like them little blue ones where you don't even have square edges. The edges just kind of full, you know, them are crap and they just suck in. You know, I use the white Ace fiberglass spun filters. You get great airflow with them. They do a decent job of filtering the big things, and everybody, oh, you need this super dense stuff to take this, you know, takes out, well, that filter takes out 92% of all airborne particles. Yeah, it takes out 92% of your airflow too. You ain't got, there's nothing dribbling out your vents. You know, your coil's freezing up, your ducts are full of mold, and your unit can't breathe, and somebody made some commission selling you a thick filter or some super high density filter. You don't want mold, you want good air quality. Put at least one good standalone dehumidifier in there. And it has to be piped out, because if you've got to empty it every time, it becomes too much of a pain in the butt and you won't do it, and the system won't work right. Has to be the hose has to be hooked up, and it's got to be set up where it sucks the water out of the air and then it pumps it outside. That's a standalone, self-working, low maintenance setup that for not very much will make a gigantic difference in your cooling in your house, how comfortable it feels. Because the lower the humidity is, the cooler it feels. Even at whatever temperature, it can be 77 degrees, and some people feel hot at 77 degrees. But you bring the temperature, the humidity way down like that, and they'll be feeling comfortable at 77 degrees. Because it's not just the temperature; it's what the humidity is at that temperature that controls exactly how comfortable you are. Because your body dumps heat through sweating, evaporization, sweating. So if the air is so full of humidity that your body can't dump heat through sweating because the air is too full of humidity, there's nowhere for the sweat to evaporate off to, of course you're going to feel like you're wrapped in a blanket. Where if the humidity's low, then it's going to be kind of like you've got a fan on you, the same effect, because it's going to be the heat's going to be evaporating out of you so fast, it's going to be almost like having a ceiling fan on, which is another thing that's good. If you run some ceiling fans when it's hot, and you run your standalone dehumidifier, and you keep it 45% humidity or something like that, and you've got your air conditioner set to whatever set point you want, watch how much better your air quality and your comfort gets. That's not what all of your heating and air conditioning companies are going to tell you, because they don't make anything off of that. But all I'm looking for is to get you to subscribe, so hopefully eventually I can get monetized one of these days and end up having a little extra coming in, because I'm older. I'm in my 60s. I don't look like it because I dye my hair, and I don't do that for anybody else. I do it for me, so I don't look like old man time when I look in the mirror. Because my hair, if you look at my arms, the hair on my arms is snow white. It's not gray. It's snow white, like The Witcher or something. That's what my hair and beard does. It is snow white. So I color it once in a while. Otherwise, it looks like it's stratifying off my head. Wait a minute. Hey, your hair is taking off. It's lifting off your head on a white cloud. Yeah, and that's the normal stuff growing back. That I don't like, that make me look like Father Time or something like that. So just for me, so that I don't feel like I'm a million years old when I look in the mirror, I color my hair with Just for Men. Which is pretty easy to use, and it works for me. A lot of people don't like to do that, and that's cool. Whatever works for you, that's what you do. And eventually I may hit a point where I don't someday too, but for now, it just makes me feel like I've got a little bit more life in me than when I look in the mirror to see color in my hair, but it's each person's own choice, what works best for them, but I'm not doing it to try to impress anybody else or anything like that. Well, I mean, I do have to say, my wife's probably six to 7 years younger than me, but she probably looks closer to 25 or 30 years younger than me when I've got my hair white. But where it's like this, we look a little closer to the same age. So, she's beautiful. I don't want to be going in places and having people think I'm her grandpa or her dad or something. So that's another reason I color my hair, which makes a lot of sense. That way I don't have waiters saying, "Hey, do you mind if I ask your daughter for her phone number? You know, do you mind if I stick this steak knife up your butt? That's not my daughter, it's my wife. Have to color my hair again." No. But anyways, long story short, guys, I'm going to get off of here. We're up in Tennessee right now. I'm fixing here probably within about 3 weeks to be heading back down to Florida, where I've got a guy that is supposed to be working on a big box trailer that I have. I was turning into a camper, and it's a long ordeal, the stuff that happened with it. But I'm sure hoping that he's doing his part of getting it fixed, like what I paid him cash a long time ago to do. And you know, it has been 8 months and it ain't done yet. So I am hoping that it works out and he ends up doing what he's supposed to do before I get back down there. If he don't, I'll be doing another podcast on that, and it'll be real colorful. But till then, you older guys that like working on stuff, that appreciate the quality in some of the older vehicles and in some of the mechanical stuff, and still like things so much, some mechanical, not all electronics, you know, because that mechanical stuff, some of it, if it was done right, it works dang good. It's, you know, a lot of that stuff still works today. And I've got a lot of respect for something that was made in the 1800s or even in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and it's still working today. That's because the people that made it was trying to do good by you, which unfortunately nowadays, you know, it's all determined by a bunch of fat guys in a boardroom somewhere that you know, look at your common people like us as cattle or something that are dispensable, and all they care about is the profit. They don't care anything about, they don't care if we have food to eat or enough money to cover our pharmacy pills and medication that we have to take. They don't give it about anything about that. All they care is that they're making tip-top dollars, or they're living like kings, you know. Well, us normal guys, you know, struggle to make ends meet, honestly, you know. But then we all know once the rapture happens, you know, it's going to turn around, and those ones like that will be very sorry for how they did things, and wishing they'd have done things differently. But for now, I'm going to let you go. You guys are my friends out there. Once again, Brian Crosby, retired heating and air conditioning contractor, homeowner, business owner for 35 years, and it's still running. I sold it to a couple Christian guys down in the Melbourne, Florida area that are still running it down there, that I thought would do good by my customers, you know, because after 30 some years, you know, you get to be friends with the people, and, you know, you don't want to sell to somebody that's going to do them wrong, which is unfortunately 3/4 of the heating and air conditioning companies these days. So at least I gave them the best chance by trying to handpick somebody that would be good, and that would hopefully do right by them, you know, or that, you know, has good intentions, you know, which I know a lot of them don't. You know, a lot of them I wouldn't trust as far any further than anybody else would trust them, you know. But the ones that I did sell it to, I have a lot of faith in, and they're good guys, and I believe that they'll do good. And so forth. But stay tuned, and in the next video I'll come back to, I'll try to come back to this if I end up finding anything out. There is one thing that's a possible marking here, but I can't tell if that's a marking or not, you know. I'm gonna have to look at it with something. Even with reading glasses, I still can't see that good enough. to tell if it's possibly like a fancy one letter marking or something like that. And I may even show you the a few of the pedometers that I've been collecting and working with and stuff like that. Of course, the pedometers ain't gonna take the weight off by themselves. So I've got to get out there, and I've been walking. I've been doing some walking when I use the pedometers when I do it and stuff to keep track of how far I walk and everything. But different little mechanical projects that I get into, and when I get back and I'm converting that trailer into a camper, I'll also show you what's going on with that, and I'll be installing a mini split in it, probably around a 12,000 BTU, 115 volt heat pump mini split. I'll be installing into that and making it into like a camper slowly. But I get into a lot of mechanical things, and if mechanical things and working on things like that, and fiddling with things interest you, my tractor's also back down at my other place in Florida, which I'll have to be messing with it when I get back. I have a Mahindra tractor with the front bucket and so forth, and it's been 6 months or so since I've been down there, so it's not going to start. I'm going to have to get it running again and get it working again and get back on getting the place back under control, because we came up to visit the kids and grandkids for a while. But I'll keep you informed on all that I've got going on and all the things I'm working on and stuff like that. And hopefully some of it, and I'll keep, listen to the things that I said in this one and learn from some of the stuff. And as far as the dehumidification and the stuff like that, extra dehumidification in the southeast, never hurt anybody. And every dime that you invest into it, is gonna come back to you multifold in positives and air quality and comfort.